Morning. So, Thursday, just checking in with myself that I know it's Thursday, I know what day of the week it is. I'm so sorry if you're following along yesterday. Had a rookie tech failure, and my computer just died halfway through the practice, so kind of interesting when you're live streaming and you're just talking to an anonymous world, and then the computer dies. It's a subtle transition to just being alone, talking to yourself in a room. So I just was talking to myself for half an hour. Anyway, still worth doing, to be honest. So thanks for joining. If you're new to joining follow along practice, just a little note that it's not a class. I do classes on Zoom as well if you want to join classes, and then I can see you, we can interact. But for this, I can't see you and can't interact. So it's really, really important that you take this as a sort of structure to play with. Might be that you want to and can do everything that I'm doing. Might be that you don't want to or can't, and then you need to adapt it for yourself. Or it might be that you want to do much more than I'm doing and you want to take what I'm doing as a framework to fly off somewhere else with your own practice or your own training, or whack in some extra conditioning exercises or go deeper into a stretch or whatever. Any of those things where I say take it further, I would say do that towards the end of the practice. The beginning of the practice, you definitely benefit from doing what I'm doing, not necessarily physically exactly the same thing, but in terms of intention, it's very minimal. You get much more out of this sort of neurological reset that's kind of stolen from Feldenkrais, the Feldenkrais method. And you get more out of that the more you can just take it easy, be kind to yourself, be lazy, be luxurious and curious and just interested in discovering the body, and then changes can happen. And then later on in the practice, if you want to push it somewhere, go off dancing, put on your own music, do some burpees or whatever you can do. So, okay, I'm gonna have a little lie down to start with. Just getting my computer ready for myself. Cool. And I switch into talking in the first person. So that it's clear that I'm talking about me and my experience. Can be a little guide for you and gives you kind of a guide. It gives you instructions for movement. It also gives you instructions for how to guide the attention. It's a practice in awareness as well, and it gives you something to kind of compare yourself to. Like, oh, she has that experience. I don't have that experience. What experience do I have? And so on and so on. Have a lie down. Oh, that's a nice little roll. So I start lying down. Oh, it's nice light this morning in here. There's always nice light in the morning, to be honest, but this is lovely. So just lying down to start with. I've had a hardcore emotional week, and I can feel all the patterns of tension in my body kind of reinforcing, like all the places I tend to hold tension, all the places I tend to grip and have overactive musculature, kind of chronic tension that I can't release. All those little patterns are kind of creeping in. I need this daily practice, this physical reset more than ever. So I just notice all of those little things. It's kind of like discomfort that steals the focus for me this morning. Not discomfort, but the things I would easily judge. So I just have to notice those things. I notice how wonky I am. I notice where I'm tight. I want to let go of this certain patch in my back. I want to let go of tension in one hip, but I just can't seem to do it yet. And that's just fine. I know that this is an opportunity to explore those things.
So I sense my alignment as I'm lying, and I really sense, I'm going to try and look for a line of connection. If I go from the crown of my head and I draw a line down through the center of my body, I divide myself into two halves. And as I do that, I scan down my body and compare those two halves. I compare my sense of left and right, slicing myself in half down the middle. I notice which parts of myself I can pay attention to. So as I'm scanning down the body, I kind of got as far as the chest, and then I was like, I've got to go back up and start again. Don't know why I did that, but I just felt I had to. I went back up to the head again and I started again. So I start again, scanning down. I sense such, probably because when I get to the chest, I sense such a clear difference left to right. Like two different people on the left and right. And really from there down, that's what it feels like today. Oh God. Going down, trying to sense my three-dimensionality of my ribs. What's that like on either side? Still staying with the sense of the midline. Down through my belly and my lower back, comparing either side. It's like I'm paying attention to either side of my body, but either side of my body is in my peripheral vision, and my main focus is on this line down the center. So I can kind of focus on the line down the center, and then in my peripheral vision, my imagination, I can take in what's on either side of that line. Down to my low belly and my pubic bone and my sacrum in the back of the pelvis. Noticing difference between the left and right. Down to each leg, and I just draw a line down on the floor so that I'm clear where the midline of the spine continues. So I've been drawing this line down my torso in my imagination, slicing myself in half, and I keep drawing that line down on the floor as I sense the alignment and feeling of each leg on either side. And as I draw that line on the floor, I can try and get a sense of how close each leg is to the midline. I actually want to lift my head and look. And my feeling doesn't correspond to what I see, so that's interesting. I feel something that is different from what is actually the case on the outside, as far as I can tell. Yeah, it's tricky. Anyway, I let that go. Bend my feet, bend my knees, stand my feet. Got my feet just wherever they're comfortable. I'm not trying to correct anything. I'm not trying to lie correctly or any particular way. I'm really going to try and just let my comfort be my guide. I'm just noticing how I'm making contact with the floor now that I've bent my knees and got my feet standing. Changes my contact with the floor. And I just move my knees around a little bit, just a little, because I just feel that I want to get a better sense of my hip joints. I feel that a kind of absent-minded, lazy little shifting of my knee side to side, either both knees together in and out, or both knees together side to side, or just one knee opening and closing, or one knee just closing and then coming back, or there's so many different little possibilities, a little absent-minded, taking the knee off the alignment with the foot and then back into alignment with the foot in different ways. I feel that that can just give me a better sense of my pelvis and how my pelvis makes contact with the ground. I want to feel my pelvis a little heavier on the ground. I want to feel my hips release a bit. And I think I could just play around with my hips and my pelvis really softly, without any particular intention. I'm kind of touching my belly and my pelvis at the same time, using touch to just be a little bit of a relief, like even just sort of containing myself a little bit, like swaddling a baby. A little kind of belly hug for myself, hugging my low ribs, creating just a very little bit of gentle pressure, and moving my knees a little, tuning in with how can I make contact with myself, how can I support myself, swaddling myself a little. I'm going to slide both hands, I'll just leave the knees for a moment. I'm going to slide both hands under my lower back with the palms down. And I can just easily do that. I just want to get my hands somewhere comfortable. I feel like I'm trying to match the curves of my lower back with the backs of my hands. So in the end, I don't personally actually have my hands on the floor because I've got quite a big arch in my lower back today, particularly on one side. So the position and shape of each hand isn't the same because I'm moulding the back of my hand to fit into the curves of my lower back. So I don't have my palms on the floor, but I've got a bit more of my left fingers on the floor than I have. So my fingertips, all of my fingertips are on the floor. That's really important because I don't want to be making too much of an effort in the hand. So my elbows and my fingertips are on the floor. The palms of my hands are towards the ground. The backs of my hands are in contact with the back surface of my body, so that my hand is kind of filling the gap between my lower back and the ground. So up towards the back of my wrists, I can feel my lower ribs. I just very gently press the back of one wrist and then the back of the other wrist in towards my ribs, towards my belly, towards my center. So I'm just lifting the back of my wrist like a millimeter, not even that, just to increase the pressure a little bit on the back of the low ribs. And I'm feeling that little bit of pressure provides a little extra support, gives me a little sense of where the back of my ribs are. I can feel my digestion kind of getting eased, settling. Different systems of the body saying, oh, thanks for the support. And then with my hands still here, I just come back to that little play that I was doing earlier with the knees, keeping it super small, just having my feet wherever it's comfortable. I wanted to change my feet a little bit now. Opening and closing the knees, taking them a little side to side, just playing with one at a time or both together. A little kind of careless thing. And as I play with the knees, I feel what happens in the hips. I also feel what happens in my lower back, again, the contact against the back of my hands. And I'm also practicing this kind of more expansive awareness of myself, trying to soften my eyes and my jaw, make sure that I'm not gripping into my toes or tightening my belly unnecessarily. I just realized I could actually loosen around my pectoral muscles, the front of the chest, so my hands are in this position under my back, and that has some effect on my shoulders and chest, of course. So I just needed to remind myself, actually, I could relax my chest a little bit more. I'm just doing these like very tiny little waggles of the knee, slow waggle of the knee. And I'm just going to ease my hands out, let my knees be still, and ease my hands out slowly from underneath me, and feel what that support under my back has done for me. Feel this softening in my belly and my back. I feel this softening in the whole torso, actually. I feel a greater letting go into the ground. I come back to this little waggle of my knees anywhere I want. I can vary the size a little bit maybe now. If it feels comfortable, I could go a little bit further. I'm just trying to sense, always noticing the difference between each side. So what are the unique characters of my left and right leg, my left and right hip? I'm enjoying my contact with the ground a bit more now. And then I'm just going to open both knees and push both feet down and away from me so that I can rest with my legs long. And I see how I feel in resting. I feel much more aware of the bony structure of my pelvis now in the front as well. Just want to feel those bony bits at the front of my pelvis. And I feel that they're quite different on each side as well. One side is protruding more clearly and the other side is more clearly kind of surrounded by chunky muscle. I'm going to take both hands, feeling the bony bits at the front of my pelvis, and then they're kind of like handles. All of the bony bits of the body, they're like amazing handles. So I get my hands kind of feeling these handles of the bony structure of the front of the pelvis, and I place my thumb just on the top or just to the inside of the bony structure. It's going to roll. I'll just roll to camera to show what I'm doing. So there's this bony structure at the front of the pelvis. I can feel that bit kind of sinks into the belly on the inside and the chunky pelvis on the outside. So just find that, and I let the thumb kind of grip over there, and then I can spread the palm and the rest of the fingers out over the outside of the pelvis. Even when I place my hands and look, I can see that they're in different positions. That gives me, again, a sense of the orientation of the pelvis. So I'm just lying down. I just wanted to show that to camera. So I'm just lying down. I have my legs long because it just helps me feel that structure a little better. And with my hands in that place, I'm gently pressing them in towards each other and a little up. So it's like I'm trying to close slightly the front of my pelvis. I press them in and a little up. So I'm not really doing much with the thumbs, to be honest. The thumbs are just resting there as a guide to placement. And it's more with the heels of the hand, the palm of the hand spreading out, the soft wrapping of the little fingers and the rest of the fingers, that I get this pressure. I can push my arms in, and I can try to close those two halves of my pelvis closer towards each other. Quite a strong, firm, continuous pressure. I feel my belly soft. I feel my belly is affected by what I'm doing. And then I'm going to release it so slowly, ever so slowly, releasing the pressure, releasing the pressure. As I release the pressure, I feel the bony structure actually changes. The bony structure of the pelvis follows my hands and opens up, opening up the front of the pelvis a little more, opening up the belly. Slowly my elbows come to rest on the ground, my chest softens. Slowly I release my hands. Slowly I just place my hands back down on the ground. And I see how I feel. just going to bend both knees and stand both feet. And bring my hands back underneath my lower back. So same thing as I did before, my palms are facing down. My fingertips, it's kind of like, I'll just show again for camera. I slide my hands under my own back and I just have the base of the hands, the base of the palm on the floor and the fingertips on the floor, and I lift a little bit the back of the hand into the shape of the curve of my lower back, whatever that is. And I'm just gonna, actually I don't have the base of the hands, that's not true. In my back I don't have the base of my hands. I've actually lifted my wrists, so I'm actually working with my elbow on the ground and my fingertips, and my wrists are lifted off the floor. So you don't want to be pressing hard, you don't want to be working over hard in the arms. But I'm just trying to kind of nuzzle the back of the hand and the back of the wrist into the back of the lumbar curve. I almost feel the back of my hands, back of my ribs are kind of in the kidney area as well, so you don't want to press too hard, but you're just lifting up to support that curve of the lower back. And I'm going to start rolling my pelvis a little. I need to get my fingers out from under the pelvis. I have my fingers a bit low there. I'm just going to bring my hands a little bit higher. So when I start to tuck my tailbone underneath, I can feel it starts to flatten my fingertips. And then it starts to flatten my hands even more. And I lift just the pelvis. I can actually still feel my buttocks on the ground, but the bony structure of the pelvis is lifted. And then I lower it down again, unrolling the spine, and I slightly stick my bottom out and I increase the support under my lower back as the arch under the lower back increases. So I'm just following the shape of my lower back with my hands as I tuck my tailbone underneath, the fingers flatten, the bottom lifts just off the floor. And then my pelvis comes back down, and as I stick my bottom out a little bit, increasing the curve in the lumbar spine, I just push up gently and support myself even more with the hands. Tucking my tailbone underneath, I need less support. My back presses into my hands, and then as I stick my bottom out, my back lifts and my hands press into my back. My tailbone tucks underneath and my back presses into my hands. My bottom sticks out a little bit and my hands press into my back. Softening the breathing, belly, softening the chest. Tuck the tailbone underneath, the back presses into the hands. Stick out the bottom, the hands press into the back. And I think I'm done. I just want to slide the hands out and rest. Notice how I feel. How am I making contact with the ground? The contact around the back of the shoulders has even changed. I didn't expect that. That's a nice bonus. I just lengthen my legs and see how I feel. And I'm gonna roll to lie on my side. Slightly cold feet, but I want my socks off. Take my socks off. So I'm just lying on one side, shuffling my bottom into the sunshine. And it's comfortable for me to just lie with my head flopped onto the ground with my arm out, my underneath arm out in front of me. But if that wasn't comfortable for anybody, then you could just lie on your underneath arm or you could put something underneath your head. But I'd like just to lie with my head flopped like this. And I'm going to just start to lift my foot and then lower it down, and I'm just lifting a little and lowering a little, and I'm just seeing how that feels. I'm always able to move myself into a position that's more comfortable, so I know I need to have quite a deep fold at the hip and quite a bend at the knee in order to be able to keep my knees together and hinge from the knee while I lift my foot. And I'm only doing what's really comfortable. And just see how that feels. And then I just keep my feet together and I just lift my knee. And I see how that feels. So just in case anybody watching has different experiences with different methodologies. For example, I know I teach Pilates, and in Pilates we do an exercise similar to this, except I'm saying keep neutral spine and keep this alignment and keep that alignment and don't let your pelvis move and blah 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 blah. In this instance, I'm not putting any restrictions on it. The only restriction is I keep my feet together and I lift my knee and I see what happens. What happens? I'm trying to just learn what happens without me having any particular intention. So I definitely feel my body rolls. And then I just go back to the other one, I keep my knee together and I lift my foot. So when I do that, again, I don't have any particular intention. But for me, whereas when I kept my feet together and lifted my knee, I definitely felt my body roll back. When I keep my knees together and lift my foot, my body isn't rolling anywhere. Just going to rest, rolling to lie on the back for a moment. Notice how I feel. And I'm going to lie on the other side and do the same thing. Making myself comfortable. See what it feels like to lift the foot. Keeping the knees together, so I'm hinging from the knee. I can always move and make myself more comfortable. And then the other way, keeping the feet together and lifting the knee and seeing how that feels. Trying to be as relaxed and soft as I can. And I'm just going to lie on my back again. I feel my pelvis kind of spreading out a bit more. I feel myself a little bit more even. I'm going to come back to lie on my second side because that side was easier for me. So I'm actually lying on my... I'm just choosing the side that's easier basically. So I'm going to start lying on the side that felt a bit easier. And then I'm just going to alternate between lifting the knee and then lifting the foot. And as I do it, I'm taking my attention now into the contact of the body with the ground. And I'm just feeling, could I melt anywhere? Could I soften anywhere? So as to be able to roll a little bit easier, not roll, sorry, lift and lower a little bit easier. Just making myself as comfortable as possible on the ground. And then I'm noticing which way I roll, if I roll. So for me it's quite clear that when I open the knee I roll back, And then lower the knee, coming back. When I open the foot up, I roll forwards. So just let myself roll on the ground. I'm feeling the contact of the thigh with the floor, side of the pelvis, side of the waistline, side of the ribs. And then I roll to lie on my back. And I'm going to keep evening myself up side to side actually, so I'm not going to, there are loads of different ways of doing this, but I'm going to just keep alternating sides, so you've got an itchy nose. There we go. So lying on my second side, or rather, yeah, whatever, side I didn't just do. Lifting my foot once, lifting my heel once. And again I'm going to take my attention to my contact with the ground and just doing that straight away as I take my attention to the contact with the ground rather than to the foot itself or the knee itself. I feel that lifting the foot and lifting the knee is easier. I let myself roll and I've got a little more pleasurable, greater range of movement just by taking my attention to the floor. And I can always change the speed. Interesting to change the speed of the movement. And then I'm going to roll onto my back and rest. Coming back onto the first side. I'm going to place my feet together and place my knees together. And now, even though I'm not going to do really the strict Pilates version, I'm still not worrying about like a neutral spine or a neutral alignment or anything like that, but I am going to try a variation where I don't let my pelvis roll. So I can even place my hand on the side of the pelvis and see what is it like to not let my pelvis roll. So even with this variation, even though I'm stopping the pelvis from rolling, how little effort can I make? Change my position on the floor slightly. Change the alignment of my spine a little bit, still without any effort, just by changing how I'm lying. And that changes what's possible in my hips. So I'm just doing internal, external rotation of the hip, only what's possible without any strain. And then I just take a little rest, and I'm going to then come back to opening and closing my knee, but letting the pelvis roll. I'm taking my hand off the pelvis because otherwise when I open my knee backwards I always start to fall back. And I'm letting my foot and my knee slide around a little, so I'm not being really strict about keeping the knees exactly together or keeping the feet exactly together, because once I start rolling, the knee kind of drags a little bit and the foot kind of drags a little bit. And I just want to make this feel more luxurious. How can I do to make it feel more luxurious? And then I rest. Lie on my back again. Oh, feel this lengthening of the side that I just worked on. Really clear a connection from my head to my foot on the left side that I just worked. My right side feels like a shriveled up little raisin. I feel so like affectionately pitiful for my right side. Okay, I give the right side a chance. Lying on the side I didn't just work, so working again the other leg now. I start by placing my hand on the side of my pelvis and opening and closing once the foot and once the knee. Without letting the pelvis move. Only what's possible without any strain. Only what's possible without rolling the pelvis. And again, I could slightly change my position on the floor, just varying the relation of the knees to the belly, to the back, etc. Just basically just shuffling on the floor into a slightly different side-lying position, see what that does to my hip mobility. I want to just do that again one more time. So where the knees and feet are really changes the hip mobility. Really feeling this working in the deep rotator muscles, but I don't want it to start tensing, so just take a little rest. Woo. And I come back to it, but now I don't stop my pelvis rolling, so I just keep the top arm flopped down on the ground. And I lift the knee once, and I lift the foot once, or other way, I lift the foot once, I lift the knee once, and I keep alternating, but now I don't stop myself from rolling. My pelvis rolls as I lift the knee, my pelvis rolls back, rolls the other way as I lift the foot. I keep it slow. I take my attention to my contact with the ground. I close my eyes so I can sense my body rolling into the ground and squidging, and I'm not strict about. So when I lift my knee, I want to keep my foot down in contact with something, and when I lift my foot, I want to keep my knee down in contact with something. But I let the knee slide around and I let the foot slide around because, again, depending on the position of the rest of my body, different things are possible, so just changing what's possible. Oh, I like this one with my knees further away from my belly. When I open my knee with my knees further away from my belly, it gives me a really nice opening in the hip. A little bit of roll and rest on my back. My right side is slightly less raisin-like. It's never like my left anyway, but my left is like a column, and my right is like a slightly rehydrated raisin. Right, so I'm going to roll back onto the first side that I did. Side for me that's a bit easier. And I'm going to start lifting the knee and the foot again. This time, as I lift the foot, do you know what? I'm going to change that. I'm going to lift the foot and then keep the foot lifted, and I'm going to slide my knee, the top knee, I'm going to slide it all the way down to the foot. I can even go onto the floor beneath the foot and then slide it back over the top knee. So my starting position is just lying on my side with my knees and feet together. I lift my foot and then I keep my foot lifted and I keep my knee down and I keep the knee in contact, the top knee in contact with the lower leg, but I slide the knee down, 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 down the lower leg to the foot and to the floor and then all the way back up. And I can even slide that lower leg further down. Where can I slide this knee, the top knee, where do I slide it? I can slide it down onto the ground and behind the bottom leg. I can slide that knee down over the foot, that's around in front of the knee, sliding the leg around, trying to keep soft through the ribs, soft through the belly, internal rotation of my left leg, the top leg, all the time, and sliding the leg around. It starts to kind of work quite hard around the hip again, and I'm trying to just stay soft. And then I change, I let the knee come down, I just slide the whole top leg up and down a few times, just sliding the whole leg up and down. So the foot stays in contact with the floor even when the rest of the leg comes away from the floor. And then I keep my feet together and I lift my knee, and I slide my foot up and down my lower leg. And I could even let the foot slide further. So if I let the foot slide further, it rolls me all the way onto my back. So slide the foot up and down and see where it goes. So again, my starting position is lying on my side. I lift the knee and keep the feet together. And then I start to slide my top foot around, feel the underneath the leg with the toes, can get my toes a little bit of weight, kind of squishing the flesh of my lower leg with my toes and my feet. Sliding my top foot around, tracing maybe the shape of the lower leg with the foot. Sliding it, and then I just bring it back, and I just come back and see what's it like to open the knee. Whee! And then open the foot. And again, I'm not strict, I'm just keeping the foot down while I lift the knee, and then I'm keeping the knee down while I lift the foot. But I'm not strict about keeping the knees together or keeping the feet together. That really rolls me. And the whole of the rest of my body just squidges out of the way and adapts, and it obliges to the intention of the knee lifting and the foot lifting. How nice. And I roll onto my back. Okay. Come on, right side. Come on, little raisin. Here we go, second side. Just a few times I lift and lower the knee and then the foot in any old way. Then I keep the foot lifted and I keep the knee down. So my knees start together, and now I start to slide the top knee down the inside of the lower leg all the way to the foot if it goes there comfortably. I'm only going where. I'll just continue once or twice, just maybe being a bit less ambitious, just sliding my top knee up and down my lower leg with my foot lifted. And then I rest. And then I open up my knee. Actually, I just want to open foot and knee once or twice, just rolling again. Lifting the knee once, lifting the foot once. And then keeping the knee open, knee lifted, and the foot down. And then sliding the top foot up and down the bottom leg. Sliding it around. Where can it go? Down, even around on the floor. Where can that top foot go? And I'm just letting my body roll. Again, the whole of the rest of my body just accommodates a little exploration of the top foot around the bottom leg. And it rolls me. Of course it rolls me. I keep my foot down. My knee lifted. And then I just close my knee to bring myself back, and I see a few times what's it like to lift once the knee, lift once the foot. Not being strict about the feet staying together or the knees staying together. And then roll onto my back and rest. Oh, this opening up of my right side is such a relief. And I feel almost scared to acknowledge it. Like I'm so desperate for it that I feel like so tentative to acknowledge that it's improved. Got this like fatalistic, like, oh my god, if I pay attention to it, it's gonna regress again. So just acknowledge all of those feelings around this body work. So with all of those things, I could continue, this is a little inspiration for anybody, could continue playing with this. In fact, why don't I just do it? Just very gently. I'm rolling onto one side again, it doesn't matter which side. And I'm opening one knee and closing, opening the... I start from the same place. I open the knee, and then I open the foot. And then I just lose the restriction of keeping the foot or the knee down. So I'm just opening the hip and closing the hip. And I want to just dive the knee down as much as I can while the foot dives up. And then I want to just dive the foot down as the knee goes up. And I'm just changing what goes on. So I'm playing really with this big, juicy internal rotation and external rotation. And I could really go into some kind of like really harder training here. So I've done a lot of loosening up and a bit of muscular work on a very subtle, deep level. But I could now really push this, now that I've got more ability in the hip. I can feel that I can go to a bigger range and still stay within comfort and pleasure, even though I feel that there's this kind of real muscular work going on. I could play with how long the leg is, whether my foot is pointed or flexed. I could swing the leg a little bit. Just nice swing of my leg backwards and forwards. Oh, what a great connection from the foot to the head. I'm not inhibiting what's going on. I'm letting my body roll. And then resting. I'm actually going to roll via my belly to rest. Then I'm rolling to my second side. And I'm doing the same thing. I start lying on the side. I lift once the heel, once the knee, once the knee, once the heel. And then I just make it bigger, and I get rid of that bind of the obligation to keep the knee down or the foot down, the knees and the feet in contact. And now I'm just opening up the knee from the hip and closing the knee down from the hip. Going into external rotation as I open the knee, internal rotation as the knee dives down, foot dives down as the knee dives up, knee dives down as the foot dives up. And I just feel this relation, this big sweeping relation from my knee, from my foot and my knee through my hip to my pelvis and my back. Making it as juicy as I want, playing with different rhythms. Where can I get more internal rotation? What's happening in my upper body? Can I stay soft? Make sure I'm not pushing anything too much. Going into whatever feels good. More muscular work. In different places, the different openings, different sequencing of how the movement passes through the spine. Make it a little bit more dramatic with a little delay of the head. A little dancey. And then just playing with where I can go, feeling how wide do I want the knee, or how open do I want the knee? Is my foot pointed or flexed? And then I feel I'm ready to go into this nice big swing, keeping the knees soft. So I'm lying on my right hand side, I'm swinging my left leg, I'm only doing what's comfortable. If I do this without that whole warm up that I just did, I would be straining my back And I wouldn't even want to do the action. If I'm honest with myself, it just wouldn't be comfortable, and I've tried it, I have tried it plenty. So this can just feel big, kind of luxurious. Where can I get my leg? How does my leg relate to my upper body? I can twist in different ways. And then I'm going to roll onto my back and rest again. Oh, that was exhilarating. Resting. Evening up my two sides. Really feeling how I'm making contact with the floor now. I'm just going to come up to standing. So that could go into much more dynamic work if anybody watching wanted to just keep going, working deeper into the hips. All of the building blocks are there now. Just standing, seeing how I feel. I have a really lovely sense of height. My connection of the feet to the ground is greater. Just bending my knees and placing my feet into the floor a little. I'm just going to walk around a little bit. And as I walk around, I'm just going to test shifting my weight. Shifting, turning, just walking, changing direction. Shifting the weight, feeling how my feet make contact with the floor. A little swing of the leg maybe. Scooting the legs around. Just feeling this kind of playing with whatever freedom I have in the hips. Playing with maybe some of the stuff that I was doing in lying. So just kind of external, internal, external rotation while being pretty kind of easy and lazy, not thinking about what it looks like, not thinking there's any particular need to do anything in particular, just exploring. Nice little swing of the leg. So a combination of stability, easy stability through the supporting leg, and mobility through the other leg. I could take it now to little jumps, little skip, little run. Just going to hang my head down, hang my arms down, and keep going in this kind of play with the hips really easily. Hips and pelvis, connection of the feet to the knees, soft ankles. I just want to do it to let my back rest. You could go into a big movement with a leg, whatever you wanted, but I just want to release my back, rest my head down, and come back up gradually and just walk a little bit. Sensing how I walk again. Just want to do my hair, but I also want to let my arms down and see what it feels like to walk with my arms down. And I want to finish in standing still. Or relatively still at least, just with my eyes closed, just to appreciate how I'm feeling now. And for me it is an appreciation. For anybody watching, if you haven't felt any change, or if you're still struggling with judgment of kind of critiquing what's going on, then it's harder to have that appreciation. That's okay as well. but just a chance to notice changes, notice a state of being and how that relates to, how does my state of being relate to my ankles, knees, hips, pelvis, ribs. Blah, blah, blah.
Cool. Thanks. That's it. Thanks for joining. Share on social media. I put a really nice video today on Instagram Live about the skin and touch. I'm doing a workshop this weekend on touch, so check that out. Yeah, and as always, let me know if you have any questions or any little demands, and